For those of you who weren't alive half a century ago, or at least you don't remember what it was like in a fine dining restaurant when you were in diapers, there are some differences you should know about. Tableside service with dishes flambéed by a maitre d' dressed in full military regalia in a very dark dining room were expected. When I say very dark dining room, I mean it. Darker. Next, the liquor in everything was a mark of quality. Waiter, our son is halfway through his salad and he's barely drunk at all. Not to worry, here comes the rolling cocktail cart. Maybe a Tom Collins will pick up that Caesar salad with vodka dressing, eh, Timmy? Waiter, can we get some of these candles put out? We can still see some of our food, and we don't like it. Steak Diane is one of those iconic fine dining restaurant dishes that peaked in popularity about half a century ago when tableside flambé service was all the rage and restaurants needed recipes that lended themselves to such theatrical presentations. The curious thing is that this dish was drafted into service with a whole lot of sloppiness. By the 1970s, the recipe was such a mess that customers basically stopped ordering it. But in its heyday, this was really a great dish that balanced some fruity notes with mustard and cognac that hadn't quite all been vaporized. It's really delicious. You have to try it.
Okay, first a couple of little advanced techniques that would not be explained anywhere but is necessary for tableside service. First is to squeeze a little lemon juice over these cut up mushrooms. Otherwise they'll rust. So you know if this guy's walking around with a trolley with mushrooms on it, they got some lemon juice on them. And of course, not only does that prevent them from rusting, but it also adds some flavor. So, here's our mushrooms. Next, we have homemade beef stock here, but it needs a little bit of cornstarch in it. Also, not something you normally get told about. Now, this is going to make the sauce more homogeneous without anybody knowing. Now, here we have the meat for this recipe. This is one of the reasons why restaurants love this recipe, because you've only got 120 grams, about 4 ounces of actual steak in this. It's not very expensive to produce. The customers think it's worth a lot of money. That's just what you want. Now, you can flatten these out with a rolling pin. I didn't grow up with that, and I don't like the results compared to the mallet approach. I think people invented the rolling pin because a lot of lazy people try to do this in one bang like it was a sledgehammer, and they ruin the meat. And you can't do that with a rolling pin. But really, your best results will be tapping it with a mallet. Trust me, this is better than the rolling pin. Just be patient. It didn't take much patience. Look, I'm done already. That's all it took. How hard was that? Now, here comes some magic. This is from volume 3 of my cookbook series. This is the Lovecraft coating. This is really, really, really good on this dish. But I'm only putting it on one side because the other side I'm going to put salt and pepper. So this is ready now. We're just going to heat up some butter in a pan, and we're going to lightly cook this, as you'll see. Now we're set up with our key ingredients here. We've got mushrooms that were secretly sprinkled with some lemon juice, some minced shallots, so these can be added by a tablespoon at a time easily. We've got cognac, tawny port, good quality tawny port, beef stock, broth stock. It's actually somewhere in between the two. It's been also secretly doctored with a little bit of cornstarch. And our steaks that have been pounded flat and seasoned already on one side with the Lovecraft seasoning mix. You can look at the annotations at the beginning about that. And a clove of garlic that I'm going to smash on the side of the knife when I'm actually ready. And we've got a pan that's getting hot, and we're going to add some butter to it in just a second. Obviously this isn't a chafing dish, but it will accomplish the same purpose. I'm adding 30 grams of butter to this as the first stage, and we're going to let this foam up. Okay, it's fairly well foamed up. I've got this clove of garlic that I smashed against the side of a knife, just to give the butter a little bit of garlic flavor. And here's those mushrooms. a giant mushroom. It's actually one mushroom that was cut like this. And a lot of recipes call for the mushroom to be sliced thin. It's okay, you can do that if you want. It's a matter of personal opinion. I like it in chunks like this at the end, but you know, you can suit yourself. It's been about 3 minutes on a heat of 7. It's medium high. You can see the mushrooms are getting some color now. Now I'm going to transfer these back into a bowl and clean out the pan for just a second. Here's the mushrooms with the butter. Now I'm adding more butter to the pan. This is another 22 grams. Yeah, I never said this was a low-calorie dish, low-fat dish. It's traditional old-style cooking. So as soon as this melts down here, we're going to put the meat in, the seasoning side down. And on the other side, we're going to season it with some salt. And fresh ground black pepper. Let it pan fry for about 1 minute on this side. Okay, it's been 1 minute. Now I'm going to flip it back. Now because of that magical Lovecraft seasoning, it actually has some charring on this side, which it will not have if you don't have this seasoning. It will not work this way, not in 1 minute. Now we're going to give it just a few seconds more on the other side, maybe 40 seconds, something like that. Okay, it's been about 40 seconds. Other side's not as cooked, but it's cooked. Now, we're going to lower the heat down from 7 to just a little bit under 5. And we're going to add a couple tablespoons of shallots, minced shallots. We're going to cook these for about, I don't know, minute and a half. Okay, looks good. Now we're going to add that stock and about a half a teaspoon of mustard. The heat's on 5, it's on medium. We're going to let this reduce a little bit. It's been about a minute since I added the stock to the pan. You can see it's already getting thicker. Now I'm going to add the pork. Yeah, not a lot. Somewhere between 1/2 and 1 ounce. You want those fruity notes in there because that's what this dish is supposed to be about. That's why it's not other dishes. That's why it's unique. Okay. You can smell the nice aroma of the pork now. Now I can return the steak to the pan along with whatever juices ran off of it and the mushrooms. What you're going to need to do here is kind of pile the mushrooms up on top of the steak for the sake of the next step. You can see this is getting pretty thick already. Okay, I actually let this simmer for about 2 minutes. Let's give this a little stir. Now we're going to do kind of flambé you don't see very often anymore. Usually use a drier pan so you get a big flame and not very much alcohol left. There's quite a lot of alcohol. It's over an ounce, just a little bit over an ounce here of cognac, and I'm pouring it into a wet mixture, especially over the top of the steaks. Let it sit for a minute. Now you see the flame is fairly low. It doesn't just jump up out of the top. This is the way flambés used to be done a long time ago. Most of the alcohol is usually burned off in modern flambés. In this sort of flambé, it's not. It's part of the dish. In fact, you don't even let it finish flambeing if you want to do it traditionally. Just put a cover over it, extinguish it, and that's it. Now we need to plate it up.
If you want to understand, really understand, what goes on in the chemistry of cooking, Volume 3 is what you've been waiting for. Sure, I've included detailed printed recipes for everything on YouTube during the last few months, as well as quite a few additional recipes, but there are several other important features here. First, it's a direct continuation of some of the topics from Volume 2, with more details and answers to questions I've received from viewers, answers that I couldn't provide in the comments section because they require diagrams and charts to explain. Second, this is the only book of its kind to provide a fundamental and scientifically accurate introduction to organoleptic chemistry. That's the molecular science of flavors and how they're developed in cooking with different methods of time, temperature, the combination of ingredients, the pH, and other factors that influence the outcome. There's an extensive explanation of the browning of foods, and I don't just mean the Maillard reaction. Everyone knows about that by now. This is another whole level of understanding. But more important of all, this book introduces a novel method of making the sort of addictive flavor additives used by commercial food manufacturers, only using natural foods instead of bottles of chemicals. All you need is basic kitchen equipment and a digital thermometer to enter into this whole new world of cooking you've never seen before. If you want to know more about my adventures as a chef around the world and have some great laughs along the way, be sure to check out the video tour of my book, 40 Years in One Night. It's up on YouTube right now. Click the link.
Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.